Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. I am your host, Ben, and today we have the big dog, Mr. Max. How's it going today, man?
What's going on, Ben? Thanks for me on here. Excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, me too. So, clearly you're in the Web3 space, helping game studios build and scale on blockchain with Chain Stack. So, I'm just kind of curious, like, what's your story? How did you get here? Maybe you could start from the beginning.
Yeah, so I've been with Chain 8 months now. My story with blockchain and I would say NFT technology really started about 2 years ago. So I have a background in tech sales. I've been doing cloud infrastructure, database sales, a little bit at Oracle. I've also been at another e-commerce startup before ChainStack, but really explored and dove deep into the world of NFTs and blockchain and gaming and all that with blockchain towards the end of 2020, when like the last bull run was really up, and I got involved with NBA Top Shot. So that's my story. I had a friend, my buddy and I actually, there was one day when he called me up and he was like, "Man, why are some of these digital highlights $30,000?" And we were like, we got to get to the bottom of this. Like, this is pretty crazy. There's so much money being thrown around into these NBA YouTube videos. So took out my credit card, made an account on Dapper Labs, bought my first NBA Top Shot moment in my pack, and like realized I could resell it for like 4x price like this day. And I was kind of like, what's going on here? So that's what really got me into learning more about what digital ownership meant, authenticity of assets, that you could purchase online really meant, what, the transparency and authenticity of what the encryption of what blockchain technologies can bring to, identities online, obviously, and other things that people are utilizing the technology for, and just got down a rabbit from then. So, back in the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, kind of fell into the DJ and Twitter space, looking into a lot of these ICOs that were happening and these NFT projects that were dropping and even like gaming blockchain that were dropping and got real like intertwined with that. Got to the point where I really got so invested, like not only financially, but like personally in time. I was working my regular job, but not really was on Twitter 24/7. And it got to the point where I just needed to join the space full time and add value to it. Because, at the end of the day, you can do as much research as you'd like in the space. You can talk to as much projects and people as you can, or at least interact on Discord and projects, but you don't really know what's going on and understand not only the value of the technology, but they'll you actually contribute to it and you work full time in the space. So that was my passion for joining a company, and ChainStack came about just by I was doing a lot of research, and the what we do here at Check resonated with what I did with sales in the past with cloud infrastructure services. So jumped in, and I love the fact that our team would work with anybody and everybody domain, and then I just felt an incredible opportunity to be able to lead a gaming vertical, and not only work and I'm passionate in with the technology I'm passionate in, but also now a vertical that I'm extremely passionate in.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask about next. Is how does gaming fit into all this? So you go and you're looking to become integrated in the Web3 space, and then you start working with Chain Stack and then leading the game vertical. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Like, what's been the background in gaming? And I think the part that would be most relevant for the crypto gaming space is, what about gaming did you like in your gaming history? what about it really clicked with the crypto gaming and metaverse spot? Like, what about it was like, oh yeah, this is the thing right here.
Yeah, I would say, everyone has that story of, you play on end Warcraft, you play months on end Fortnite, you buy a ton of these. People use that example all the time. Personally, my background in gaming, I've never been a professional gamer. I've never worked in the gaming space head until I joined Chainstack, but I've always been gaming hobby my whole entire life, and I've played pretty much everything you can think of. And on the lines growing up, with a Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1, playing a bunch of Mario, getting first GameCube, Smash Bros, and then really getting into what Call of Duty, falling that rabbit hole in middle school and playing with friends in high school and so forth. You think about how much money goes into a lot of these games, how much money goes into a lot of these assets that you're buying within the game, in the metaverse. You don't know any better. You're really just purchasing it because either you want to look cooler with your friends, you want to, obviously have a better weapon, you want to have, you want to, a lot of the, like for Clash of Clans, I had a friend that would spend thousands of dollars just to be better than a lot of the other people he's playing with. And obviously you spend so much money and time and effort yourself up, building your brand up, building, etc., for, just to have that ego, just to have the pleasure of winning but, it's the value of actually being able to own that asset. And when I joined, the NFT space and started buying these NBA Top Shot highs, and then kind of went down the rabbit hole of getting involved in some of these gaming communities from like a token standpoint, an asset standpoint, Axie Infinity, DeFi Kingdoms, Kravata, seeing how these assets could actually put to work. I could actually work and earn from something like that, or at least like earn and get more of a higher status. But then if I really wanted to, I could end up cashing out, or I could sell it to somebody else and move on to the next project and the next game, or take the asset and go elsewhere with it, which is what I'm really bullish on now. Not the play to earn aspect, but the fact that there's just a lot more utility around those assets that you end up buying and utilizing within the game. So it has always been just like a leisure pleasure of mine. I've spent a lot of money, just for myself, and you don't see anything in return from that. So having the idea of being able to actually own an asset and potentially make money off of it, at least get some value out of it, really resonated with me and made me really excited about this moving forward.
So let's actually double click on that thing you were talking about of being bullish on right now. Not as much the play and earn part, but I wasn't quite clear on that part where you're like, but I'm more bullish on this right now. Can you maybe expand on that?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that I'm really excited for in the gaming space, being able to take an asset that, let's say, you're one use case is, you're playing an MMORPG or an RPG or whatnot, and you end up, getting up to like one of the highest levels in the game, best competitive gamers in the space. And you end up, like a rare avatar, or, getting the level up to the point where it's very lucrative within the game. You have a lot of experience in it. What I see the future of gaming is being able to have that asset and interoperable. So like keep that asset and move it to another arena, another gameplay, maybe another ecosystem, and you still have a lot of those qualities, skins, and you can stand out. You have that digital identity that really ties back to who you are, not only as a person, but like a gamer. People can see the accomplishments that you have in that area. So, I'm really, really excited for the fact that it's not really just like trying to earn a token and then cashing out and making money off of it, but it's like a digital brand, digital identity and being able to use the asset across multiple different platforms and ecosystems. And then even further down the line, maybe that turns into some like in real life utility. If you're really at Call of Duty, you get like a rare golden, AR-15 or whatnot. You get tickets to an esports tournament for the weekend because you're one of the 1,500 people or 10,000 people in the world that, earn that weapon. Something along those lines.
Okay, I see what you're talking about. So I've thought a lot about the whole idea of interoperability and being able to take one asset and move it across a lot of different places or move it around. One of the things that I was actually thinking could be a way to do it, but it wouldn't be just instant, mass scale and it works, but almost building partnerships between games to where they recognize each other's assets and there's an equivalent swap that you could do, or there were some assets in one that you could swap for another and say, if in this FPS, if you get this particular skin for your weapon, or you get a particular weapon, you could go to this MMORPG and maybe you get some, like an equivalent crossbow or something where it's still badass, it's still a ranged weapon, but maybe they're back in the medieval times so they don't quite have guns yet, so you got to stick with the crossbow and not the bow or something like that. But maybe that could be a way to get there. But why that, of all the different things, why is that the thing you're the most bullish on or most focused on right now?
I think it just opens up a lot of doors, avenues, gaming space. I mean, right now, I think everyone's kind of building separately their own ecosystem. Everyone's building their own game, and then you have the opportunity. You have some of the top streamers in the world are only focused on playing. They're only focused on playing one game. They're building up such a big brand, such a big identity within that singular game. If they were to play another game, they have to restart. Another game, they have to restart, or people wouldn't. Besides, like maybe a username, instantly recognize who that person is. So, what you're saying too, with being able to swap 1-to-1, what if you could, you end up, you're one of the best players in one and you can swap and earn automatically from another game, another ecosystem, just because you have that experience and you have that skill and you put in the hours and put in the work, and that other ecosystem kind of grants you in, and they're like, you can start off with this really, even if it doesn't add to skill value, at least it looks really cool within our ecosystem, like a trippy trait, or it's like, crazy flamethrower, laser, or whatnot, something really like makes you stand out a little bit more. Almost like it's more power to the people into the game that they're appreciated within the space and within to go to. That's obviously just like one idea, one thing that I see would happen in the future that I think is really interesting to entertain and think about.
Yeah, it is interesting. So thinking about when you're talking to game studios, and clearly the whole focus is building and scaling um, on blockchain, what are you seeing as like the biggest pain points that studios are facing, and what are the solutions to those pain points?
Yeah, so right now, there's just like there's a big gap, I think, right now in of, there's two sides. The traditional game development, there's the people that come from the traditional game development space, traditional, brands that know and they want to move into blockchain technology. They want to implement blockchain tech. They don't know how. So they obviously know how to build a game inside and out, ins and out of everything from that standpoint. But implementing the blockchain tech part is extremely difficult, because you think about all the things that are like an added layer on top. top of it. You talk about like through like security measures, security audits, tokenomics, creating almost like a whole new economy based on a token you might be releasing, implementing if you have like an strategy, whether you want to do like a free to play model or mint, wallet integration, the chain you choose in particular. That's a conversation. There's so many L1s, L2s that are out now, and then there's a lot of into blocking with your game or your game ecosystem or studio. And then on the flip side, a lot of the native Web3 developers who obviously were here during the last pump, Infinity and all these play to earn games came out that are really bullish and know the insides and outs of game or block development and how the crypto world works, but they obviously aren't great at making games. And that's where a lot of people say, Web3 games are awful because quality, they're rushed, they're not made as traditional either AAA or even like really good indie developer games, studios develop games. So expertise gaps in each side of it. So it's all about connecting those pieces together. Because what we need moving forward, that, everyone knows that, everyone talks about that, is that we really just need a really fun, great game to play that also incentivizes and implements and utilizes blockchain technology that enables digital ownership. The fact that you could trade, sell, buy, etc., either it's a digital currency or those digital assets in game. We need a game like Seamless Play though that's going to onboard the next million users, and that's a play. And that's not out yet in particular. And what's needed in the space is just technologies, platforms, and people that are those gaps. And that's something that we do here at Chainstack. So just to give you like a quick rundown, we're leading Web3 infrastructure tool developer tool provider. So we specialize in a lot of the lower level infrastructure RPC engines that essentially allow decentralized applications to efficiently communicate with a protocol. And then we offer a lot of other developer services there. But on top of that, some advisory work, and we have strategic partners. We work with blockchain consultants, developers, people that will implement on-ramps, wallets, stuff that all the technologies needed, the platforms needed to just make the onboarding process easier for traditional game studios to implement these on-chain transactions, these on-chain assets. I know that was long-winded there, but essentially there's just two big gaps, and we just need to connect the dots and combine forces there to put a really great gaming ecosystem and project.
So either it's helping out the game studios who don't understand the blockchain part, or the Web3 devs who haven't had the experience building great games part. That's really where the two focuses are.
Exactly. Yep.
So when you're thinking about that, are you just trying to bring those people together and like, this side, that side, work together, voila?
Yeah, finding the right resources and of course putting those teams together. People are organically and naturally trying to do that right. But it's also a lot of, right now, I think during the past 6 months, ever since it really went down, I've started to notice more really great technologies coming out. They're allowing for traditional game studios to easily implement the base level, blockchain strategy and technology. So like NFTs or whatnot through their platform, through a service that you can maybe it's an SDK that allows you to spin up an NFT marketplace within your game in less than 7 days. Or, it's a service that allows you to implement a custodial wallet on the back end of the game, and then the ability to have your users sign in with Gmail or email or what have you. Real quickly, they hold if you want to, you can actually send those assets out elsewhere. I mean, that's what's really needed is that those types of technologies allow the non-crypto user to be able to come into a platform or come into a game, sign in, play within 20 minutes, less than that, and then earn or maybe collect things. And if they want to, they can then move those assets out into a non-custodial wallet. But it's really about just the ease of just being able to get started.
So yeah, reducing friction. Who are you seeing is doing this the best right now out in the marketplace?
For gaming project perspective?
Yeah, the game project,
games?
the studios. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we've been with a team called Trap. I'm really excited about, and they're the way that they're envisioning.
They've been on the pod.
They've been on the pod. Oh, they've been on the pod. Awesome. Yeah, they're sick. Mm-hmm. They're an awesome team. They're really making it. I mean, just like I said, you're gonna be able to sign with your email or create like a Shrapnel account. They spin up a wallet for you within the ecosystem. Whether or not it's an NFT, you collect things, and then just like I was explaining, you can customize, you can collect, and then if you want to, you can end up sending them outside if you really want to see what kind of value you can get from it. But it's incentivized to keep a lot of things within the ecosystem, which is really cool. And they're like I'm really most bullish about. And have you what are you currently playing anything that's like catches your eye and that you've really like enjoyed? Feel like it's been a seamless experience?
So the one that's probably the easiest to get started with is something like in ev.io, whatever the real name is. But I mean, you log in and you click like negative buttons and you're already playing. So that one's great. I love that. I actually cannot stand when I have to go in and before I'm able to play the game or see anything, I have to buy stuff. Like that to me, I'm immediately going to walk away from that. And I don't like that because it's like, unless you're either so clued in that you know all the great things about it and you're already pre-sold on buying this, unless you already know that, then how are you supposed to gather any information and know whether this is a fun thing you actually want to participate in or not? So that to me, it just doesn't seem like something like a World of Warcraft. Okay, I could see how they could get away with that, where they charge you up front. But for a game right now that's like maybe it's like barely a card game and they're mostly pushing like, oh, you can earn all this stuff. And then, yeah, so those are actually like the antithesis of, I think, what we're talking about here. Other good games right now that I'm looking at, I'm a little hesitant to just start listing a bunch of different ones because I don't want anybody to think I'm shilling or anything. But I have my eyes on a couple of different ones. So if you folks pay attention on Twitter or look at the past interview guests here, you guys can see what I'm bullish on. So that's what I'll say with that. But I think we're seeing a lot more people that are getting more and more clued in to this idea. Are you seeing that as well, where more and more people are like, yes, we just need to reduce friction and actually treat the users like humans and not like these advanced cyborgs that know how to hack into this shit? Like, are you seeing that?
Yeah, I'm seeing that entirely. The whole space right now, I feel like acknowledges it. At one point, there's like a big elephant in the room earlier this year. You know, where we're still trying to pump out these really quick, low play to earn, or I like to call them click to earn games, and everyone's kind of like, you know, not really where the space is headed anymore. And then you see from like I think one of the coolest things is just seeing a lot of the tips in the space right now that's actually building in the Web3 space. So you get a lot of these guys that are coming from Activision Blizzard, from EA, from from these huge studios, right? Games that are actually either starting a native Web3 studio or starting initiatives within missions to start building and at least doing some R&D into space. People know that the games have been bad, but the friction extremely apparent, which is like what you said. I mean, he's like a crypto user. You know, some of these games, it's really frustrating trying to go in and try the game out, and it's like I got to download a new wallet, I got to exchange, I got to buy, you know, a token, and then buy the NFT. There's like a 5-step process there. So a lot of people recognize that, and that's why there's a lot of people behind the scenes figuring out like what's the best way to onboard next. You know, people say, how do we onboard the next billion crypto users? This huge amount of gamers that are out there. I mean, there's like 300 million plus gamers out in the world, and crypto, or I guess gaming on blockchain, makes like less than 0.05% of it. Like, it's just, you know, ridiculous how much opportunity there is to bring in more users, but it just needs to be easy and seamless. You talked about.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's actually something that I like to ask almost everybody that comes on the show is like, well, how early are we really? Because so middle 2021, we kind of saw like in the August, September, it felt like it was starting to heat up a little bit and more attention was coming and people were starting to sniff around and like, oh, there's all this potential. And then there were a bunch of, you know, crypto YouTubers that were just pumping the absolute shit out of a bunch of different coins. Some of them were shit. Some of them were actually quality. Some of them are still around. But then when Facebook did its thing and then the whole world was kind of clued in to, oh, there's this term called the metaverse that now everybody thinks they need to have an opinion on, regardless of whether they know what they're talking about or not. And then that, you know, that's like an intersection with the gaming side. And a lot of people, I think, feel like that's more so on the gaming side, but there's still not that many workable products. There's not that, like, yes, you may have missed the 100x shitcoin in play, but the actual real business, you know, building real long lasting businesses, like, yeah, that's probably just heating up. But then again, I don't know. I never want to pretend like I know how to time anything in this market or be a you know, an oracle like that. But what are your thoughts on where do we really stand? Because obviously you're seeing inside the nuts and bolts of a lot of different studios, and you know, at ChainStack, you guys probably have a lot of really interesting perspectives that not many other people can see. How early are we really on this stuff? And what are going to be the milestones that we're going to see that we need to pay attention to looking out into the future?
Yeah, so to put it in perspective, that's a really great question. You know, I think you zoom out just how early we are with this ridiculous. Like, you know, I've only personally been in the space, you know, a little over 2 years now. Seems like a decade, but 2 years is not. Bitcoin was, the papers was published in what, like 8 or 9? I mean, it was really like 13 years ago, 14 years ago when this started really all coming to light, started utilizing and coming to an idea of what is like a currency that can be utilized to transact with something. Like, that's 13 years is nothing in the grand scheme of things. So we're still, you know, I hate to be that person, but we all start pretty early just from like and then gaming is like a whole nother ballpark. Like, Infinity got really big in 2020, and you know, late 2020 and early 2021, and that was what, last year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And the funny thing is, they've actually started developing their game in 2017. A lot of people don't realize that they've been building for they were building for 3-4 years before their token price got up to $160+. So that took a lot of time, and people like to say we have real quality games. It's really it's insulting the industry, what they're doing. Well, a lot of it's experimental right now, and that's what we went through with the Axie Infinity. The play to earn stage was very experimental. Like, let's see what happens when we take, a gamified, like a browser-based game, and we add some sort of like DeFi project on top of it, and allow people to own these assets. You can stake them, you can earn it, and then people obviously in the bull market making a ton of money, but then once the dump at the top, which happens, a lot of these really small, low cap projects just completely get gutted, and it's obviously not sustainable. But we went through the steps, we went through we figured out, okay, well, there's interest in, combining digital assets, NFTs, gaming ecosystem. And that was, we really learned our lesson like at the back half of 2021, early this year. Thinking the gaming space really tanked, but so early. And then you talk to so many people as well, and I know you're a big gamer. These games, even as an indie developer, you really polished games take 1.5, 2 to 3 years as a small indie developer, and after a lot of iterations. And AAA studios, they are, even though they're really, they're all like machines at this point. They're all well-oiled machines. In order to get to the point that they got to, they're developing games for years. And really, people like to say 3 to 5 years for a AAA game to be launched, to be ready. And to bring up Shrapnel again, I mean, this team has been working, and I like bringing them up. I think they're going to be a really great example of what's going to be like kind of like a flagship. Then, Alluvium, Star Atlas, there's a lot of really high-quality games out there. Mythical Games is great too with Blancos, and then there's Big Time. Like, there's a lot that are out there right now. Just because I know them really well, they've been building their game. They were building the game before even deciding to put it on chain. Like, they were just building it, because they wanted to build like a whole new studio, and then got to the point where they wanted to move everything on chain to expand their user base and the utility of what can be done within their ecosystem. But like, they were already built for a few years, so that's going to come up about 4 to 5 building a game. So yeah, it's I think we're really early, and people are very impatient. It makes sense. People expect in crypto to make money quick, especially when we were on board for quite some time. But I think it will just wait a little bit. I think the end of this year, maybe some like nice like base games coming out mid next year, end of next year, beginning of 2024. I think is the gaming space on chain.
And what do you think when you're saying huge? You mean like the games coming out are going to get huge, or the quality of them is going to be much, much, much better, or like it'll just be a function of both? Because what I think about when you say that is like we have billions and billions and billions of dollars piling into these teams and these projects and a space, and that has to get digested. Like, it doesn't just instantly turn into something. Like, the money has to legally make its way into those organizations. The organizations have to then figure out what they're doing with all of that. And regardless of how great your pitch deck is, you don't know how you're going to spend $200 million when that hits your bank account. Like, you will have to do some more thinking. It doesn't just auto happen, right? So like, they have to invest in the right things. They have to pay their people. Time has to go by. They have to collect feedback. They have to do alpha, beta, publish something and then they're going to fail a whole bunch in that span of time. So like, what does that actually mean when it's going to be big? Is it going to, and how will we know that it's like, aha, yes, we've arrived?
Yeah, it's going to be at least like those right now engage, because okay, here's what I think is going to happen. I don't know how much you follow what's happened with Reddit and their NFTs, but the Reddit NFTs have been exploding. They've been 50, 100. All the people that are on Reddit all the time, they didn't really know what they were buying. You know, they just thought they were like avatars. They did it in a seamless way, in which you didn't have to connect a wallet, not, and it was like very easy to do. In that onboarded, they say they have 3 million wallets created. That onboarded 3 million people within the ecosystem without even realizing that's enough. So I think what's going to happen, like who's in the weeds right now, who's active on Twitter, who's engaged with a lot of these games and projects and know what's being built right now, we know what these like web games are, and are going to be really excited and expected to see all these games flourish, actually be playable, actually be really fun, engaging, and addicting. And we're also going to see the return on that because what we can do with those assets that we play with within ecosystems. But from next millions of users that come in, they might not even realize out of the gate they're playing the game. That's what it's going to turn into. Is like what we were talking about earlier. They're going to be able to sign in with an email or with whatever account login that game wants to utilize. They're going to be earn whatever they want and play within that game as if it's an actual game. And then, everything's going to be converted in a way, in my opinion, or like what I see in the future, where it'll probably be way easier to at least take that money or take those assets, not only sell marketplace within the ecosystem, but convert to USD or USDC or whatnot. And it'll be a lot more efficient process. And they probably won't even realize that they're playing until maybe they do want to cash out or they do want to trade an asset. And that's when they go through the steps of educating themselves, learning about what NFTs are, what blockchain. When I say huge, I mean huge in the going to bring a lot of crypto people into the space organically because of how great the games and how high quality the games will be. And then, obviously, us who have been working really hard in the space, have been grinding, have been connecting with teams, have been playing all these games, we're going to really see the value. We're going to see that explode, what we've been holding on to for so long. I'm excited for it, to the point where I get my buddies who don't understand crypto, who love, I'll go on with them, never download a Mask wallet, but when they get to the point where I know that they're playing a Web3 game and they might not even realize first, that's when I know that web gaming on blockchain.
I love it. I love that. And I think that's absolutely it. When people are playing a game and they're loving it and they don't even know that it's Web3 enabled or that it was built on the Web3 rails, that is when we know we're making we're making it. We're pushing forward as a whole space. I like that a lot. Okay, so I want us to go back for a second because I feel like everybody in crypto leads two different lives. There's like the working life of like you help game studios build and scale, but then also I would imagine you're probably also an investor. And I know, speaking for myself, I can't help but turn into like a part degen at night with full Pepe face and all that stuff. So like, how do you, first of all, do you have that degen side to in your life, and how do you balance like being working in crypto and then like being an investor degen in crypto at the same time? Like how do you suss that out?
That's a great question. I actually like it's funny because I've gotten way more conservative since I've been working so heads down in the space, because I know what's going on. I have a way better and more clear picture of what's going on, and I'm not being as degen-y as I used to be. Because I used to, you kind of just you see a project explode on Twitter or whatnot, and you throw a bunch of money into it, and then you research, and then you figure out what you just invested into, and that was like, I think everyone has that stage, those moments within their degen career, and I still do that, but not as heavily. And that's what I'm saying. When I'm conservative now, it's like, I don't know. It just put a lot into my life of everything, all of the projects, all of these NFT collections, all of these ICOs. They're all startups. They're all developing by people, and the ones that are going to be successful are you're basically, you have an opportunity to invest at the very early stages into what could be the next Fortnite, Call of Duty, what I'm saying, the next great game, which I think is really cool. So for me, I think I've become a more intelligent degen, a more conservative degen. I still am on the lookout for that next 100x, 1000x. We all are, but I'm not spraying as much as I used to be. I'm being a little bit more strategic, and just using some of the knowledge from experience from like what I've lost money in the past and whatnot, and the teams that I'm talking to as insight. Responsibility at degen, and I will never give advice again. I've lost too much of my friends to, even if I put non-financial advice, I still personally take ownership of it. So I like to keep my mouth shut now and stick to what I
know. Yeah, that is, I think that's definitely something that everybody goes through. Is like, you go through your initial turbo degen phase. And like, for me, I was pretty lucky because I entered crypto at the very bottom through shit coins. One of my buddies was like, "Hey, you should check out this really sick startup. They're launching this coin, and it's going to be alongside, there's the whole spiel with it." And I was like, "Yeah, man, that sounds really cool." Not knowing that this was just the depths of the shit coin market that we were talking about. So I get in there, and I see everything that's going on. I'm like, "Oh my God, this is completely degenerate." I don't know how anybody can like function doing this 24/7 and like still somewhat be a quasi human at the same time. Keep in mind, I was doing it too. I was I was way in there. And then it took me a little while to like understand that crypto is way more than just that. And similarly to you, like, I feel like I've gotten more conservative over time and more like, I want to know more about it. I want to research more about it. I want to understand it better, and then learn more about the people behind these different things, and more so bet on the people, because it's like, oh wait, this is still normal investing. This just has a different. This is just, this whole asset class just in a different life cycle than what most people are used to. So it's just really interesting to me, because I feel like we do, but we all have those sides, those both sides, and it's really interesting, because there's so many times when, even still, like, I might leave an interview with a project and I'll be like, "Oh my God, I want to ape into that so hard," and I feel like it takes a lot of time to like actually get sure enough about something where you're like, okay, I can do this. But I guess the question to come out of that is, what was more rewarding for you, being on the degen side or being on the builder side? And like, if you could wave a magic wand, resources are not an issue, which side are you living in?
This side, the builder side, being part of building a team, building an ecosystem, growing the presence and just knowledge and always consistently learning from the ground level up rather than being looking in, because that was one of the things I was with. And I briefly mentioned it at the beginning of the call. Like, I got to the point where, you degen so much that it's like you get to the point it's kind of like no idea really what's going on. And a lot of this obviously all hands. And why, if you like something so much and you're very passionate about it, why not try to add value to it and contribute? And that's kind of like where I found myself now is like, I really am passionate about helping people out, about connecting the dots. The biggest thing I mentioned earlier was that I see in gaming, and that's what we're here to do. That's what I'm here to do, because personally is help provide as much value as possible. Our heads down, developing, building, designing, creating next wave of gaming, the next generation of gaming. So it's way more rewarding, obviously hitting 100x on a mint that happened at 3 a.m. for a toad that was smoking like a big cigar is fun, but also that stuff only lasts for so long, and that's the the thing that you control is how long it lasts. So as long as if you're actually building your ad and you see what's happening in the space firsthand, you can really create a full career out of it and just create create something that's never been done before, do something that's never been done before, which I really love doing.
Yeah, I dig that. Now, we're coming a little bit close to time here, and I want to obviously be respectful of your time. I'm very appreciative of it thus far. Moving from the Web 2 into the Web 3 space, I think this is on the mind of a lot of people of like, how do I go full-time in crypto or full-time Web3? I feel like the more time that goes by, and the more exposure people get to it, the more the stronger the pull is to like pull people in. How do you suggest, having done it, how do you suggest going through that process of making the move, taking the leap? Because for some people, they may have this, they may have a job that like, they're like, man, I got this sweet gig over here in Web 2 space, but like, I don't have the ability to grow as much, or I'm kind of capped or limited in my potential in this particular thing. And then I see this wild west of crypto and Web3, and it's like, wow, that to me seems unlimited. And so I want to go into that spot, but like, that whole transition point, maybe you could share what you learned from your experiences there and what you may have done differently, knowing what you know now.
What I may have done differently to start with that is I would have listened to my friend who was drunk in an Uber 5 years ago telling me to put all the money I ever made into Bitcoin. Actually done that and then figured out that, because it'd be a completely different story, no, but joking aside, I mean, obviously I think they get in early. It's like you talk to somebody who's 15, they're like, I wish I started mining Bitcoins in 2013. It's to the point that, right now you can really take control of your actions, but you can only control the present time. What I would say to people that are trying to move from the Web 2 to the Web 3 space, and what I did personally was I just, like I said earlier on this call, I was trying out, I was saying random, like you said, shit coins, all the way to a lot of the downloading different wallets, trying different DeFi projects, buying different NFTs, going through the steps of playing different games, etc. Going through the steps of really interacting on chain in every level that I could, just to really understand what I was doing, and for me, it was more passionate. I time in the Web3 space, it was kind of like that degenning mode, for instance, like that we were talking about. But that got me to the point where I was so bullish bullish and so excited about what it was to what there is to come in the future that I had to move into this space. And so it was an easy way for me to get in. And then, from the employer standpoint, it felt like I was marketable just because I had that experience of, having a full NFT or, having experience playing around with a bunch of different wallets, a bunch of different DeFi projects, decentralized exchanges, etc., and being able to speak on that and just speak. And then also, I think one thing people don't really understand is means of communication is completely different from the Web 2 to the Web 3 space. You go from, as traditional tech sales, where everything is done through and then through even cold calling people up out of the blue, where in this space it's all done through Telegram, Discord, a little bit through email, a lot of calls, but it's great to connect with someone over Zoom, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes people anonymous and just like to chat over Discord. So it's just a completely different communication, completely different like vibe, from a traditional Web 2 space to here. Everyone's kind of figuring out together, which I think is really cool. But yeah, if I were, advice to somebody that's moving into the Web 3 space, take a step back and be like, have you literally put $500 into, Ethereum, into another altcoin, like a token? Go try to play Crypto right now. Go try to play that DeFi interactive game, and go through the steps to get set up, just so you have some experience interacting with on-chain projects. So that's really like what I would say is take some time to really just interact with some of the decentralized applications that are out there.
I love that. Well, Max, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing everything that you have. I see you pop up on my timeline, so it's really nice to really get to meet you and a chance to chat here. And it's been a really fun conversation. So I just want to say thank you. I want to give a quick shout out to Mike over there on YouTube. I know you're here with us live. Shout out to you, buddy. Thanks for always tuning in with us live. But again, Max, thank you so much for being on the show. Really do appreciate you. And your Twitter is linked in the title already, as is Chain Stack, so everybody can go and learn all about that stuff. So again, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate the time. This has been a pleasure, and I hope I took something from this. I think it's all about learning in the space and educating others. So yeah, thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Likewise, everybody watching, listening, thank you. And I will see you all on the next